Hi everyone, this is Aaron and I'm here today with Pastor Matt Powell. Pastor Matt, we received an anonymous question via Tumblr and this person wants to know, in response to Pastor Matt's sermon in English service on February 23rd, 2014, what's the difference between loving someone and being their friend? There are definitely people in the church that I simply do not get along with, and it's not because of any bitterness or hatred. It is simply because we have different personalities and have different interests. I guess a better phrased question would be, God calls us to love each other, but does that mean we need to be friends? Or is loving and being friends the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. The context of that question comes from my sermon that I preached on February 23rd from First Peter chapter 1 verse 23 through verse 22. I'm sorry, through chapter 2 verse 1 through 3. The point of that sermon basically was to love each other in a selfless manner because of our transformation of the gospel. That was basically the main thrust. And some of the main points I brought up about that sermon is that Peter calls us to have an agape sort of love, a selfless sort of love towards other people that extends towards others at the expense of self. Now, having said that, remember during the sermon I said that what I'm talking about here is not so much that you just go about and you extend yourself to anybody and everybody, because obviously, number one, that would kill yourself. But really, the idea of that sermon is more so having the spirit of love. And so, having said that, there's a difference between being a friend of somebody and actually loving somebody. For example, you can have a spirit of love towards anybody, a spirit of love towards people, but that doesn't mean that you're everyone's friends. And yes, there are personalities that we just have different interests with. Not that we don't get along with them, it's just that we have different interests and run the same different group of friends. Jesus Christ is a prime example. He definitely loves everybody. He definitely loved people. But even with all the people that he ministered to, there's only a certain group that he hung out with, namely his 12 disciples. Even within his 12 disciples, only 3 of them, Peter, James, and John, were really within his core group. If you go to Mark chapter 9, you see that only Peter, James, and John got to see Christ and his transfiguration. None of the other disciples saw this. And so having said that, yes, you can love others and yet not be close friends with them. So to answer that question, loving someone, I guess having the spirit of loving others doesn't necessarily mean you have to be their friends. You can have people in your life that you just are acquaintances with, but still extend a spirit of love towards them. So what does that look like? If a person is an acquaintance at your church and this person is running low on money or really needs something, out of a spirit of love, you can still provide for their needs. That's how I would answer that question.
Thanks, Pastor Matt, and thank you everyone for listening. I do see all of your questions in our inbox, and we will be answering them over the next few weeks. If you see me at church, you can ask me your questions in person, and I will be sure they make it into an episode of Unicoi Questions. The great thing about Tumblr is that you can ask your questions anonymously, so feel free to ask us all of your questions or check out our archive at unicoiquestions.tumblr.com. Thanks, see you soon.